Welcome to this episode of Disrupt Education. I have Disruption Joe with me. We are in 1871. Thanks for having me here, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming. You're here all the time.
So what's Disrupt? What are you disrupting? Disruption Joe, what are you all about?
So right now I am the founder of Chicago Blockchain Project, and we are very interested in inspiring people to educate themselves, to go out and use the knowledge that they learn to educate others, and then to take that to application through collaboration. So we're building tech systems that actually use digital assets, similar to, it's the technology that allows Bitcoin to exist. The fact that if I'm using cash, I'm holding $1 now. If I hand it to you, now you're holding it. And the internet is mostly, if I send you an email or a copy of something, it's just that. It's a copy, so that now there's two of that.
Right.
So the blockchain technology allows the ownership of a scarce digital asset.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're saying is, how can we use these assets and actually use them as incentives for people to cross what we call, in like the game theory side of it, the Schelling point.
Okay.
So are you familiar with?
Not much. Not much. So, but I've heard blockchain, right? And I think it's kind of a buzzword out there. So it's basically, is it fair to say it's another currency?
It would not be fair to say that.
Okay.
The first application is currency. So think about like the cloud. Everybody knows we're putting everything on the cloud, and what does that mean? It's supposed to mean that it's up in this magic cloud that nobody has control of.
Right.
But really, you're just putting all your information on Google servers or Amazon servers, right? And then we wonder when Facebook takes all that data and sells it for something that's not good.
Right.
Well, is putting it on the cloud supposed to be me storing it on your server, or is it supposed to be storing it on something, a set of computers and rules of how they compute that says that nobody has control of it?
Okay.
And if it's everybody's computers together, then who controls the rules to that game? Like, you ever play, do you have siblings?
Yeah.
Older?
One older and one younger.
Okay, so you got both. You had the older brother who had changed the rules to Monopoly while you were playing.
Right.
So you learn how to play the rules to the game. That's what we do with most things, like our money system now. Like, nobody really understands it. We know the Fed's doing some crazy things, but we couldn't explain to somebody what it is.
Right.
Well, what it is the Fed has the controls to the rules of the game Monopoly, and we're just trying to play the game by whatever rules are there.
I see.
So that's where Bitcoin came from. But then blockchain was the realization that what's happening with Bitcoin is that there was just this asset that was made scarce because you and I were both running our computers, that just like internet protocol said that we would find each other.
Right.
And then to keep more and more people looking at this, the Bitcoin existed. So eventually they had 10 of us nerds together running our computers, and every once in a while, every 10 minutes, one of us would win the reward of a little bit of Bitcoin. It had no value.
Right.
But after a while, we started exchanging it just for fun, and then maybe exchanging it for something on the internet. Over the last 9 years, it's gone up in value. And every time it goes up in value, it incentivizes more people to try to win that reward. So more computers look at it, and then that's that many more computers that are looking at the ledger of who has how much money.
I see.
So it's just a ledger that's distributed in the trust of who controls the rules to the game.
That's I've never actually had it explained that clearly. Yeah. So I appreciate that. That's awesome. So, so what is your background and what is your education, and if you went back to high school until now, what did that look like? What did that path look like?
I think for my story, it's really important to go back a little further than that. I quit school in 3rd grade. I got a -10 in a math class once because we had board math, and I didn't write my name or the date onto my paper, let alone doing any of the work. And I always believed in math was basically like, here's the problem, then some magic happens and I have an answer. But I always tested well.
Yeah.
I was tested kind of top percent of my class, always like A's on everything. And when they told me I had to do all this work, I was like, no, this is boring. They tried putting me down grades and into remedial classes, and then seeing all kinds of psychologists.
Like right around 3rd grade?
Yeah, 3rd grade, 4th grade.
Wow. Okay.
And I felt like an outsider.
Sure.
right? And really the system was not able to handle that. And then the people that I was around, the other students started to think, well, what's wrong with Joe? And really, I was just looking for something more exciting. So that early on, I was jaded by that system.
What did you do in the remainder of the 8 years, or the traditional system? What did that look like then after that?
I got in a lot of trouble. I love dabbling in sports. I really loved music, so I played in a band, and all through high school, I played bass guitar. And then when it came time, I had a full-time job since I was 14.
Wow.
And after school, I didn't really think I needed college because I was making really good money for anybody in my age group. I was working at a car dealership and had taken over a parts department. I was running it.
Yeah.
And then my boss one day, I was like, hey man, the boss walked out like 9 months ago. I just took over. You gave me $1 an hour raise. He was making $45,000 a year plus bonuses. I want at least X. He said, look, I can't give you a title or the raise because I'd look stupid for giving that to you, even though you've done better on every single metric because you're like 18.
Yeah.
So I made the ultimatum, okay, well then I have to quit if I have no room for growth here.
Right.
And that made me think a lot. And I ended up taking another job in the car business, but going into sales. And the same situation happened. I opened up a business development center for them. I started sales, and then we ended up doing a business development center that expanded to like 14 employees, all of their 8 locations.
Yeah.
And a year and a half in, we're doing very well. And I went to ask for that raise, and they said, like, I didn't even ask for the raise. I asked for the raise in conjunction with being able to like purchase some things that we needed to maintain the growth and efficiency we were doing. They said no. I said, okay, I got to go to college.
Right, okay. So what did college look like for you?
So I had been dabbling at the community colleges, so I finished up a third year of community college there, and then came to DePaul here. I started as a computer science major and then quickly switched to management information systems, realizing I wouldn't be sitting there doing it. And then I got really interested in other things, started taking classes. I went fairly far in music theory and different art classes, a lot of like culture and mythology classes. Very big fan of the mythopoetic.
Oh, cool. I know nothing about it, but that sounds like somebody who wants to go deep into like psychology or philosophy. Is that kind of where that led you?
Yeah. I think it's like the mythopoetic to me is like, why did these stories get written over and over in history, whether they're the Bible or like fairy tales or like even like the Lion King comes out with certain symbolism that the writers probably didn't consciously think of.
Right, okay.
But how do they match it so perfectly, and how does humanity know that this is the way we should be guided?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, then in 4th grade, you should probably go in the corner, and that's what I'm thinking right now. Here's this brilliant young man who like no one's asking.
Right. I think it happens like that a lot. And because I think I was, I always had a good amount of friends in high school and that, but I always had this like outsider feel because when I would talk about things, what I was interested in talking about, nobody else wanted to talk about. And I almost just resigned to the fact that like, okay, I'm just a weirdo who happens to be really good at my job, whatever I do, and then there is no like place for me. Right. And I think the education system actually, it's not its fault, but it's not set up for like the Malcolm Gladwell like outliers model. Rather than looking at people who are doing very well, we say, all right, stop being crazy. Yeah, right. Mold into this. And that's been a thing that's happened over and over in my life. My chip on my shoulder now, where Chicago Blockchain Project came from, kind of started with those 2 bosses telling me no. The 2 jobs that you were let go from, or no, that you left, and then now you have this boss that says, nah, you're let go and we're not paying half your tuition. Where do you go from there? Yeah, you couldn't pay the tuition, and I was only like a semester and a half away from graduating to get my bachelor's. Although I did kind of take the Van Wilder route.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was taking all the wrong classes to get there. I was taking the ones I was valuing my education in terms of what I was learning, but that didn't matter. It didn't fit in the track of what the school needed for the bachelor.
Right,
and
right.
I should have been smart enough at the time, even though I was young, to just go and get that and then take those classes.
Right, right.
But I ended up without a degree, and I probably put myself into a little bit of a feedback loop from that, just thinking I wasn't worth as much as I was. And that's a big problem that I think happens because of this education system, is it doesn't inspire people to be their best self all the time. And when I refer to that as Schelling point, the Schelling point is a really interesting theory to me, because what it says is that there is like a correct answer to a game of chicken. If you're driving at each other, what is the best thing to do? Well, if you're in the US, it would be go to the right, because that's the natural instinct. I think most people's natural instinct is to kind of stay in the state of life that they're in, and they don't disrupt things. They don't change their action so that they can move to the next level. They wait for the next level to approach them and then say, I'll change my actions when the world changes for me.
Do you think that's because of the education system? Because we walk into a classroom, we wait to be told what to do?
Yeah.
For 12 years?
Yeah, I think we're, the education system, again, this is a collective wisdom thing. There's no evil person out there deciding to do this, but we have just gotten used to it, that our Schelling point in education is setting up kids to be factory workers. The bell, you all do the same thing. There's no individuals, and especially people in blockchain, people that really believe in like blockchain and its ability to kind of save society in the future, is a focus on the individual and a focus on projects or problems and solutions, but not companies. I don't think companies and institutions and governments and so forth need to exist with a long life and legacy. I think humanity faces certain problems and issues, and what we need is systems that will allow us to see when there's a problem or somebody not achieving their fullest, and allow the world to come around and help them to solve that problem.
What would it look like for you in general? So if you could go back and rebuild school, maybe even all the way back to that third grade moment, what would it look like?
It's an interesting question. I like that. My view right now of how I would have wanted to learn kind of involves some of the technology that's come along since then. So I don't know if this would necessarily have been possible, but really it would involve a lot more independent learning in short spurts of, let me learn this, let me test on this, like 5 minutes of material, let me learn this, let me test on that, and going back and then proving that I know a few things and being able to move up and on my own as far and as fast as I could, and then having a teacher there who, when I had questions, I could go and take my little 15 minutes with the teacher. But I don't see any point in lectures and even like the gathering with the other students. I think is very important for social growth and personal growth. But I don't think like the lecture style is necessarily something that is how it should be. You know, that's a communion of people where they come together and share an experience together. And I also think that a lot of it, we're attempting to teach people what we think they're able to learn, rather than challenging them with things that are over their head. Like any students or people that I've helped in like my volunteering, or employees at different businesses and so forth, I always assume, let me give you assignments and challenge you and see what you can do, and then ask you what was the problem that you weren't able to do it.
Yeah.
And then we'll slowly find what you're good at. Yeah.
With technology, do you think knowledge is dead?
No, absolutely not. This is along the lines of the idea of the teacher that yelled at you for like using a calculator. Like, are you going to have a calculator in your pocket all the time? Like, I forgot who said that, but it's like, yeah, actually I do all the time. Right. Just last night I was out with a friend and we were looking for a synonym of apply, and she said, I like to use my brain. I was like, I like to use my Google. And it's like, we can expand on the next level because I view it as like a web. People are able to go in one subject, right? You can take math as far as it can go, and then you can become an explorer, exploring what we don't know. A good thing, what I like to describe as just sovereignty, or the personal sovereignty, is understanding not everybody is mentally capable of going and being the explorer. It doesn't mean they're a less valuable person. Sovereignty is understanding where your helicopter can fly and not flying too high or too low, right? And I really believe that people should be able to go in there and then find where we have problems within there, because there's an infinite number of problems. And when they get bored with that, they should be able to take something else up, especially the arts. We're way too under-appreciative of the arts, and people don't understand that the Bachelor of Arts and the Bachelor of Science, the old wisdom to that is that scientists are the people who look at the world and say, let's explain what's in front of me. And the artists are the ones who say, I think the world could be better. Let me show you how I see it and how it could be. And then we can use the tools from science to help us build the world and build a future the way we want it to be. That's where technology comes in. So our knowledge and the technology, they go hand in hand. It's not the mountain or the tower, right? Like a mountain can be very sturdy. A tower can be a lot more interesting, right? In China, you go around, they're built together.
True, yeah.
We don't have to have this or that or us and them. We can have both together. So that's how the technology works with knowledge in my mind.
Where can people find you?
They can find me online,
DisruptionJoe.com.
I'm Disruption Joe on everything.
Yeah.
And then check out Chicago Blockchain Project if they are interested in learning a little bit more about blockchain.
Yeah.
We've set up a little page tab that's called New to Blockchain, and I listed, it's literally number 1, watch this video. Number 2, watch this video. Here's 10 podcasts that you can listen to. Here's some reading material. Here's another video.
Excellent.
Just walking people through. And once you start down that rabbit hole, it's a lot of fun. So I highly recommend it.
Right. Thank you so much for having me in 1871.
Absolutely.
Disruption Joe, Disrupt Education. We'll see you next time, guys.